Brawl Stars Brawl Talk coming tomorrow. We got a new ice-themed brawler, maybe Mr. P's wife, and I have some other good update predictions. Let's do it. Now, as I said, the new Brawl Talk is coming tomorrow. If you go on YouTube, you can see exactly what time it's going to be for you. For me, it's going to be at 1 p.m. Eastern. Guys, as soon as Brawl Talk is over, I will have a complete in-depth look of anything you might have missed from the Brawl Talk, so make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out. Now, as usual, the Brawl Stars dev team has given us a bunch of cryptic hints of some stuff that's going to be coming in this next update. Not only from that thumbnail, which we saw and we'll dive into, but also on Twitter, they tweeted out a completely different image right here where you can see some other really interesting things. And first of all, let's take a look at the 3 emojis that they used in their tweet, because it's clearly going to be pretty important. First of all, there's a building with an H, either probably hospital, but more likely hotel, as in Mr. P's hotel. Maybe a new Mr. P hotel environment. More to back that up in a moment, but also a snowflake, probably symboling Gale, right? The snow brawler. And likely, since this is seeming like a Brawl Day themed update, he's probably getting Nutcracker Gale skin. Or maybe there's also even another skin he's getting too. And then the third and most interesting emote is the ice cream cone. What's up with that? Well, obviously, it's gotta be the third new ice brawler, probably completing the trio for Mr. P and Gale. They're all gonna be together, and this new brawler must love ice cream. Maybe even has an attack that uses ice cream. Another good guess about what the attack is of the new ice brawler is probably icicles, which makes sense since they're calling it an ice brawler. And you can see on this image here, there's a lot of icicles hanging around. No, of course, icicles do make sense for the environment, but knowing Supercell, they do everything on purpose. And I think they're all meant to be a clue. And there's actually a lot of other clues in this image here. I mean, take, for example, this little looking like a box or maybe a hat right here. It could symbol something for Nutcracker Gale. I kind of do think it looks similar. Going here, you can see the hat actually is relatively similar. And looking at some of the other past Supercell make skins that have gone in-game, they do make slight changes. So maybe this little color will become slightly different. Also, you can see right here in this suitcase, a lot of suitcases, another indication that it's a hotel for Mr. P's hotel, which we already know a lot about. But you can see Amber's little icon. I'm going to guess that Amber is getting a new skin, maybe going to be on the new Brawl Pass. I actually think might be a good possibility. And there is one other suitcase, so that begs me to think that there's another brawler getting a new skin, but we just don't know what it is. I mean, there doesn't really seem to be any indications on there. By the way, let's look at the sign here really quick. We see Mortis's Mortuary. We see what looks like a Tara eye icon and what looks to be Bizarre crossed out, now out of order. What does that exactly mean? I think the most likely guess is that Tara's Bizarre environment is going to be out of game, at least for a limited time. Maybe they only want to have so many in game, and honestly, you can only have so many maps, and they've started to gain a lot of environments, so that could definitely be possible. But of course, this third one right here, Snow, it's what I think it is. And you can see the Mr. P icon is that it's a snowtel, snow hotel. You got a lot of snow-themed brawlers. It's in a winter environment. And of course, Mr. P runs a hotel. Gale helps run it. It just seems to be the most logical reasoning. Not to mention, you can see the little penguin in this tree up here for Mr. P. And also, going back to the ice cream cone, you can see what looks to me, in my opinion, are wooden spoons you might get at a store when you get like samplings of ice cream. It looks like that, or maybe that's just what they use to eat ice cream. Now, what about these? What look like maybe hats here? They do also have Mr. P's icon on them, and you can see another here or here. They do obviously look like snow cones, but I also wouldn't think snow cones would have a Mr. P icon on them. So maybe it's even like a party hat or something, possibly a new skin for Mr. P. Kind of hard to tell, but there's a lot of possibilities. By the way, some other indications you can see on here pointing to different brawlers. This little, why am I forgetting what it's called? Bow tie, yes, this bow tie is something you will clearly see on Mr. P. Another good indication for there. And also you see some Gale stuff here. You see a Gale mitten and a Gale scarf right over here. clear indications of more, I think, of the environment here. But on the right tree, you see some more interesting stuff. You do see a spike sock, which I kind of think they just like to throw in a lot of different places just because spike, I guess. Also on the tree, you see another thing that is clearly not snow. This one, I'm a little unsure as to what it is. So it could be a boot, possibly, but it is harder to tell. And by the way, some interesting stuff on the mountain here. You can see some roller coaster rides, which doesn't really seem to make sense for a snowtel, but it is in Star Park. So I think it's more a hint to it being in Star Park than anything else. If it's actually related to the snowtel, I'd be quite surprised. You do see, again, the Mr. P icon up here in what looks like a house type shape, or at least a building type shape. All right, now let's go back to the thumbnail image here because there's more hints here, and I'm also going to go ahead and give you a live depiction of what I think the new Brawler actually looks like. Now, in this image, you can see, of course, someone with a tree and a big truck driving up to the snowtel. I don't know if there's any real meaning, specific hint on this besides the fact that they're going to the snowtel and maybe it's a part of the environment. A lot of times we do see in the environment on the very beginning, like in a 3v3 match, you see stuff going by in the background. I think that's going to be one of the things that goes by in the background is my guess. Also, again, you do see the Mr. P icon on the hotel type. Now, one thing I found was interesting, if you up the contrast a ton and of course zoom in, it is a little bit blurry still. But what are these four little statues or objects up here? One of them, the third one, does to me look like binoculars, like it's a viewing station here. Maybe you're looking out over the peak into some sort of classic view, which you might see a lot of times at really beautiful places. Now, what could this new Brawler look like? Well, first of all, I'm going to show you my rendition and professional artist rendition of what the new Brawler will look like. But I want you to take a look here at what a first sketch of Mr. P was done by one of the main artists for Brawl Stars, Paul. Take a look right here and compare it to the image of the new Brawler. One thing I think that's interesting, if you overlay them, especially on the right here, it kind of looks like where a glove is of this rendition here looks very similar. The ruffles are very similar, and it makes me think that this new Brawler is wearing gloves. I think it has some sort of hat, and my guess maybe with like flaps on it, a human wrapped up in a bunch of warm clothing. And with that, without further ado, here is my rendition of what I think this new Brawler might look like. Okay, and this is why I paid someone to actually draw their opinion, a professional, develop art of what he thinks the new Brawler looks like. Now, first off, he actually did a couple different renditions of what he thought this new Brawler might look like, just in case. The first one, which I think is a pretty good idea, is a snowman. I mean, look at this. I actually do think it would make a lot of sense to have a snowman. It would be really unique to snow environment, has snow type attacks, love ice cream. There's a lot of possibilities that make sense. My usual rendition of a snowman, though, I will say it's often with stick arms and stick legs. But that's not to say you can't have one that's just purely made out of snow. It's possible. By the way, he also thought you might be looking at the hands and wondering what's going on there. He actually thought those wooden spoons that you saw in the background on the earlier image is actually what they're holding. They're holding 4 spoons because they love ice cream so much, they're just eating up a bunch, which I can see the theory behind it. Now, the next one I think is the most logical, and that is a human wrapped up in a big sort of huge woolen jacket scrunching up the face, looking kind of cute. I think this would be a pretty possible rendition here. Someone throwing out ice cream, and also the cook of Mr. P's hotel. I think, or the snowtel. I think there needs to be some sort of cook, right? In a hotel, you got Mr. P is the baggage handler. Gale is the sort of custodian, handyman. I think you need someone to handle the food. I think that's what the new Brawler might do. And they happen to love dessert. They love ice cream. But what about Mrs. P? Mrs. Patricia right here. Now, if you remember in the description for Mr. P, he is a disgruntled worker. So I actually think what happened is Mr. P got in this venture for this hotel with his at the time wife, Mrs. Patricia, but they had a falling out and they got divorced. But they're still stuck working together because it's their only way to make money and make a living. Hence why Mr. P is disgruntled. He cannot get out of this situation with his poor ex-wife, Mrs. Patricia.